Okay, well, thank you everyone for coming along to the webinar today for Career Masterclass. Today's topic is on exploring career options. My name is Jason Brown, and tonight we have Barbara Wells with me as well. Just a bit of housekeeping for the webinar. Just please make sure you've got your microphone muted. I think I've been able to set up a control so that your microphone's automatically muted when you join. But if not, down on the bottom of the screen, you'll be able to select click on the microphone icon, and that will mute your microphone. If you need to ask a question at any time during the webinar, then please click on the chat icon and ask a question, and we'll be able to take note of that during the webinar and respond accordingly. So we'll get moving on this now. So a little bit about me. I'm the Manager of Careers and Employability here at La Trobe University. I've got 17 years experience as a careers practitioner in a number of different industries, from universities through to job network and community organisations, and I've also have a degree in psychology, a graduate diploma in education, and I'm now doing doctoral research on employability. And I'll let Barbara introduce herself now.
So hi, I'm Barbara. I'm a Careers and Employability Advisor at La Trobe Uni, and my work involves providing career services to students at all stages of their studies. I've got a background in the arts, which was quite varied and took me across different types of organisations in many different kinds of roles. I use a lot of those transferable skills in the work that I do now and find all the aspects of my job fascinating, but I actually have a special interest in careers as a lifelong learning process. So to get started today, I'll give you a bit of an overview and context of where this masterclass sits in light of other webinars and the mini conference we'll be having. In the previous webinar in this series, we looked at the idea that career planning is better than a career plan. We defined the idea of a career, and we looked at employability as a disposition or an outlook that's based on factors like career identity, personal adaptability, and the social and human capital that we bring to our working lives. So we talked about career planning as being about developing your career and managing change by working with current knowledge, setting achievable short goals around the factors that are actually in your control, and also using adaptive career behaviours. And today's seminar is going to build on those ideas. It's basically about making a space for you to reflect on where you want to go with your postgraduate studies, and also give you some food for thought about career development by looking at some current trends, a bit of career theory, and some key strategies and tools. So let's begin with you. Where are you heading? Your career options are not set. They're going to be driven by your own story and your particular individual motivations, as well as external forces that are beyond your control. Your ideas and goals with regard to career are also going to need to be reality checked. So you need to base them on research and strategy, but also just get into trying things out and being open to unexpected opportunities and outcomes. So learning to face the risk of failure and learning and adapting through experience. So some questions here to reflect on in terms of career options, in terms of where you've come from, thinking about what you're working towards and how you're going to get there. As a starting point, take some time to think about why you chose your current postgraduate course and what you want to get out of it. The idea of success is probably part of your motivation, but success means something different to everyone. So part of the way we explore and envisage our career options is thinking about what it's going to look like when we actually get there, our definition of success. Let's have a look at some of the career benefits of postgraduate study. Some of it is about gaining a broader context or a sense of the bigger picture, and also acquiring deeper expert knowledge. It may be about developing a specialisation or augmenting a professional role with relevant formal learning. So you might be looking at trying to get better performance at work or enrichment of a current role through your postgraduate studies. You might also be looking at gaining a competitive edge in the labour market, meeting specific industry requirements. For instance, if your course also is certified through a professional body or other agency. Another benefit may be positioning yourself for higher responsibilities and therefore a greater salary. And also about building your networks through your postgraduate study, both within your peers in your course, through the academics, and also through industry professionals that you might encounter through your studies. So my question to you would be, which of these elements are most important to you at the moment? And what effort, energy or strategy are you currently applying to address this priority? Your course may not be able to provide all of these things or provide them to the extent you want, so it is important to set some short-term goals around these areas and benefits. Broadly speaking, your career options sit in the context of current workplace and world trends. So significantly, you need to prepare to adapt to workplace changes, working with new technologies, global trends, more complex work environments, being able to multi-skill, working in multidisciplinary teams, workforce restructuring. We're seeing that across the board and in cyclical ways, and an increased pace of change and innovation across the board. So how exactly is the nature of work changing? Linda Grattan is a researcher who's identified 5 forces of change around technology, globalisation, demographic changes, societal trends and energy. Let's look at these in detail. Technology. So technology impacts on the way we connect with potential colleagues, employers, clients, markets, products and services, which does relate specifically to exploring career options. Technology is also impacting on our capacity to connect at times and in places that suit us, and particularly our ability to connect with expert or specialist sources or industry sources of information, both at a local and global level. And as part of this, in terms of exploring options, we do need to be able to discern between expert and non-expert information online and be understanding what the agenda is behind that information. Globalisation, what does that mean for your career options? Do you see yourself working in other countries? Do you see yourself working for a global organisation in a team that's actually geographically dispersed? Are you going to be competing with professionals from countries with lower wages? Are you going to be managing other people who are working across different locations? Demographic changes. So with people living longer and governments asking people to work longer, what career options are demographic changes going to open up for you? For example, is your career going to be a 50-year one? What are the spaces opening up as we see senior and experienced professionals from the baby boomer generation leaving the workforce? Societal trends. So your career options and goals are going to be influenced by social trends. Points such as your relationship status, if you're single or whether you have a family, may impact on the choices and decisions and options that open up to you. Whether you have children or other family members who need care or financial support, and also your connections to family, friends and wider community. And again, we see the multiple influences in that technology will impact how those relationships might be maintained or developed, perhaps if we do have a global career or not work in the location where we begin. Energy resources also are having an impact and impacting on the way we work in many ways. For example, the cost of moving around. You're going to work from home to save money. Or if you're setting up your own business, perhaps working from home may also be cost effective. Would you forego interstate and international travel and use technology to connect instead? So accessing global markets or having global relationships in the work that you do but accessing that via technology rather than travel. And this might also be about opening up new developments in energy generation. So there's going to be an impact on existing and new industries, which could mean emerging jobs, new products, new needs. So what limits and opportunities, I wonder, do the 5 forces present for you now and in the future? The one thing we do know is that these kinds of changes are unpredictable. For example, we've seen that the iPhone was a game changer in the way we use technology. On the one hand, it wasn't that different, but it was different in the sense of bringing things that we'd used in a range of different platforms and places in one place. So bringing together camera, MP3 player, a whole range of different functions together with the phone. So it was actually a bit of a game changer, but on the other hand, it wasn't necessarily a transformative process. So what limits and opportunities do the 5 forces present for you now and in the near future? If you'd like a little bit more detail on Linda Grattan's theory, you can have a look at YouTube on a clip looking at her explanation of how the future of work is in fact already here. We're also looking at the idea that career change is ongoing and lifelong. So in terms of exploring career options, you can be expecting that where you start is not going to be where you end up. We're looking at multiple changes in roles and workplaces over a lifetime, range of new situations, at different points in life, a mix of work, study and ongoing training. We may also have a mix of full-time, part-time, casual, solo, team and project work, and we'll need to be able to deal with the unexpected. What we're seeing as part of those changes is the fact that we can work through new services and products in different ways and engage with client stakeholders and wider community through Wi-Fi, social media, smartphones and so on. We can't predict the future, but we can try and understand the forces shaping it. So Jason's going to have a look now at some of the deeper factors that are shaping work and career options at present.
Thanks, Barbara. And I think that's the Linda Grattan's work's really an interesting read. So if you do get a chance to be able to go and have a look at her book, it was published about 5 or 6 years ago now. So some of the predictions have either not come true or she's now looking at other new trends that are perhaps taking more precedence. But I still think those 5 forces hold true pretty well. And looking at, I guess, bringing down to an Australian context, CEDA have released a report last year on Australia's future workforce. And
Jason, I think your voice has just dropped out here.
Sorry, am I still here? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yep. Okay. So the factors that are shaping some of the work in Australia, things like the transition from dependence on the mining and resources, and particularly the boom that we saw from that in the early 2000s to mid 2000s, and certainly that we're seeing the effects of that diminishing returns in that sector at the moment, and how that's having an effect on the economy. We've had a historic strength in Australia, having a really highly educated workforce, but this is now perhaps being eroded, or at least there's some competition that's coming from other countries that are now getting into the global education market, and developing countries that are really investing a lot in education. So China has got mind-boggling numbers of students that are studying science and technology degrees at university there, and India as well. So there's countries like that are really investing a lot in this, and will become very competitive in areas that we expect that we've got an advantage in. So there's things like that will have a bit of an impact, and we'll need countries like Australia and the United States and the UK to really think hard about what we're doing and to be more innovative and things like that. The major role of ICT in Australia and transforming existing companies and way of doing business. So, a lot of Australian companies have been very traditional and very conservative in terms of getting into technology and have been somewhat slow to join that. And we certainly saw that with online shopping from, so like the big retail companies that were very slow to get into that market. So we're playing a bit of catch up in this area, and we're now starting to see some of our sectors, particularly banking and finance, are really investing a lot in technology to change the ways that companies interact with their customers and that they do business between themselves and other businesses as well. There's a need to develop and focus on deeper technical skill development. So, STEM degrees, so the science, technology, engineering, mathematics, being able to get people to develop those skills is really important. One of the things that Linda Grattan talked about in her book is that we do need people to be able to have a really deep knowledge and mastery of area, that being a generalist is really not good enough anymore, because a quick search on Google can find out lots of information, and if that's the level that you're working at, then you're not particularly useful to employers, because anyone can go and look up that information and do something with it. So you need to have a really deep technical and understanding of the area that you're working in to be able to really contribute to organisations and be competitive in the market as well. Sorry, I just hope my voice is still going okay. I'm not sure if it's my actual voice or just my internet connection that's having a bit of a problem at the moment. Some of the other factors that we're looking at, sorry, my slide's just gone back a little bit, is innovation needed to ensure livable cities. So as our cities get larger and more densely populated, it's getting harder to move around quickly. So a lot of investment needs to go into that, and there's talk about the 30-minute cities, so that no matter where people live, particularly in our major capitals like Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, that most people should be able to live and work within 30 minutes of where they are. So things like that will change the way that that cities are organised, and the technology that might go into that as well. And there's obviously a need to transition workers out of declining industries. So we've seen, this week a bit of talk in the election campaign around supporting workers in manufacturing, particularly in automotive, where those industries are closing down, providing some support to assist those workers to retrain and be able to enter other industries. So in terms of tomorrow's workers, some of the things that are really important for that is things like digital skills. So we're now seeing that digital skills really need to be as important as reading and writing. Sorry, I'll keep going forward there on that slide. And increased specialisation. So being able to open up the need for more support services, the potential to add value to specialist goods and services, and being able to support workers to be able to sell skills into wider markets. So not just looking at locally, but also internationally as well. A lot of companies are going to continue to outsource their activities, and roles that require creativity and social intelligence will be those that are going to be more secure. So you've probably heard about talk around 40% of jobs perhaps being replaced by technology over the next 10 to 20 years. The research into that is suggesting that people who have got jobs that require creativity or social intelligence are more likely to not be replaced by technology. And a lot of people are also interested in self-employment as an option as well. So more people are looking at doing that, and particularly older workers who are perhaps being shut out of some industries that have a bit more of a focus on younger workers. Going in and setting up their own business is something that many people aspire to. So this quote from Winston Churchill: "A pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity, an optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty." So we talked a little bit about these concepts in our last webinar. And which one do you see yourself sitting in? Are you more likely to be a person who sees opportunity everywhere you look, or are you someone who thinks that there's just barriers in front of them and everything's a little bit difficult? So thinking about where you are on that and what reactions that you might have to the opportunities that are faced before you. Careers in a changing global economic, social and personal landscape. So as we talked about at the start, Barbara mentioned, we talked about career planning is better than planning a career. And it's less about having a plan and more about ongoing planning and strategy in response to opportunities. So exploring the environment, being able to anticipate what might happen and have your plan A, B and C ready in place so that you can adapt in the way that you need to at the time. And careers are less like a ladder and more like a matrix or even a game of snakes and ladders, perhaps, where you move up and around and down from time to time. So the whole idea is working with one organisation and climbing the ladder is, I think, certainly something that hasn't been around for a lot of people for many years now, and it is more about changing, following the skills and interests that you've got, looking for those opportunities and keeping yourself interested and learning and growing in your career. So what are some of the things that you would like to do? And this is really tapping into your career identity that we talked about last webinar. So where do you see yourself going? How do you define your career? Are you looking at particular areas like strategy or research? Are you interested in becoming a director of a department or into the C-suite or something like that? Maybe you're looking at being a consultant or even starting up your own business. Perhaps you're training to go into a new area. Perhaps you've been working in finance or education and you've decided to go and do the JD and move into a position within law. So what is it that you're wanting to do? Where do you see the postgraduate study that you're doing now, where that might be leading you to? And what will you bring to the work that you do or want to do? So some of the skills and interests that you've discovered through or before your postgraduate studies, some of the transferable skills that you've developed, and perhaps even some more that you need to develop over the next few years as well. Management, leadership, graduate capabilities, things like that. So think about how you've been developing those skills and if you are moving into a new area, how they might apply in that particular context as well. And what's your industry experience and what are some of your strengths? So I'll hand over to Barbara, I think, was now going to take over from here.
Okay, so how are you actually going to articulate your career goal or future roles? And here are some ways that you might be thinking about it. You might be thinking about products or services that you'd be involved in developing or providing. Perhaps it's about identifying specific stakeholders, communities or clients that you want to work with. Locating yourself within an industry or sector. Thinking about specific organisations and maybe defining the roles or functional areas that you want to work in. The underlying idea here is, rather than looking for a set suite of career options, it's about opening up those career options and actively looking for them by articulating your career goals and your future roles. So, thinking about then why you want to work in that sector or that role. Thinking about what you can bring to those particular products, those services or clients, and also thinking about who you could work for or work with. So you need to consider these questions when you're researching career options, and also being able to articulate answers when you put yourself forward for career opportunities, whether they're internships, paid roles, project roles, leadership roles, volunteer work, part-time work. And likewise, when you're developing your own business or initiatives, you need to be able to articulate these ideas when talking with potential business partners. Another angle on exploring your career options is around your values and thinking about the values that underpin your work. So values-driven work centres on aligning with compatible employers, opportunities and business partners. For example, a classic value statement is around making a difference in a specific area or sector or community. And thinking also around where and how you might make a difference, for example, in corporate responsibility and sustainability in business. A really useful tool you can use is the VIA Strengths Survey, which is a tool to enable you to identify areas that you're strong in, that relate closely to values, and build career meaning and focus around giving expression to those strengths. So I'd encourage you to have a look at this link that we've provided following the webinar around the VIA Strengths Survey. If you're working in the area of management, you're probably aware that the La Trobe Business School endorses Principle for Responsible Management Education. So this is a UN-backed initiative that promotes corporate responsibility and sustainability in business. So if you're interested in those areas, corporate responsibility and sustainability, that's a great example of values-driven careers. You could look at opportunities to enact specific values through different ways of working, such as entrepreneurship, intrapreneuring, where you bring entrepreneurial approaches and strategies within an organisation. It might be through social enterprise, corporate responsibility, working with collectives, not-for-profits, or simply through your personal approach to work, decision-making and your style of leadership. Let's look at the next step, how you're going to get where you want to go. So we've talked about career identity, where you might want to go, what your focus might be, and also some of the forces of change that could affect and also open up career options for you. But doors don't just open. A professional approach to careers is about actively seeking out options, making decisions, and also creating opportunities that are based on your values, your strengths, as well as outward factors such as current trends in the marketplace. So let's look at some of the factors that can generate career options and actually bring about change. And the first of these is around personal outlook, which is really around the self-knowledge we've been talking about. The notion of having a calling or a vocation or a particular purpose in your work. It might be about lifelong learning and also particular qualities that can help you generate and follow through with different career options. For example, having persistence, being able to stick at things, having a capacity to take some risks and go from the known into the unknown, being a bit resilient, so being able to take a few knockbacks, trying things out and perhaps them not working, and having a tolerance for ambiguity and uncertainty, which is a really interesting and I think a relatively new concept in careers, as far as thinking about being open to the unknown, which relates back to risk. Another factor that can help you generate career options is the strategic choices that you make around your next career move. So here we've got a great framework for looking at how change and transition might happen, probably working through from easy to hard options. So as you can see, you could be leveraging off an existing position and networks within an organisation. So you may be moving from keeping the same job in the same industry, or moving across and keeping the same job, the same type of job, but moving into a different industry. Likewise, you might be wanting to stay within an industry but move to a different job, or making a change across all areas, so going to a different job in a different industry. So this can be a great framework for thinking about career options, particularly with postgraduate studies, in leveraging off studies and also workplace experiences that you've had before. It may be also that you're looking at moving across or down to move forward or up. And this is something difficult that people can find in making career transitions, in feeling that they've got to a certain level and they'd like to move up and therefore take on new responsibilities and extra study in order to move up. But sometimes that movement involves moving down or across. So this is quite a useful model to be thinking about strategy here. A third method that can be quite useful in generating career options is to think about job crafting. So if you're looking at the same job, for example, in the same organisation or in a different one, job crafting might be a way for you to explore and develop career options around what you've already got in the mix. So it's about tailoring your approach to work and what you actually do there around 3 factors. So job crafting is basically a way of taking what you're already doing and making it a bit more rewarding and meaningful, depending on what your main career goal is. So you might be looking at the tasks you do, so improving the tasks that you do and the way that they're done using skills that you've already got, or changing the way you work. Job crafting might be about changing the relationships that you have at work and considering ways to have more satisfying interactions with other people at work and around work, which could be colleagues or could be clients. Job crafting might be about crafting the purpose, so redefining the work that you're doing to frame it around what you see as the real impact of what you do. For example, someone might be programming, working in the IT department here at the uni, and they might job craft by reframing the way they think about their work. Instead of thinking that they write code or help to develop the website, they might reframe their thinking around deciding that their job is really about making it easier for students to access information and support services that they need. Job crafting is a great tool. You can use it in an existing job and you can use it in a new job, and it's a way of tailoring the work you do to make it more meaningful and maximise your skills. But it's also a way of creating career options within something that you're already doing and changing the emphasis of it. Another way that you can be generating career options is by repositioning yourself. So it might be about researching industries, employers and trends. For example, IBIS World and EY also has industry reports that provide some broader context, and looking at how you actually reposition yourself in terms of the work that you have been doing and the work that you're wanting to do. You might reposition yourself by relocating in terms of a better job market, in terms of less competition, in terms of new opportunities, and that relocation might happen at a regional level, a national level, or at a global level. And we've got a couple of resources at La Trobe that are really useful for that. The Going Global website, which includes country profiles, Employer Connect, which enables you to look at a range of job opportunities nationally and globally, and perhaps strangely, the CIA World Factbook, which is open and available online, which is great in terms of up-to-date country profiles that looks at what's happening in the economy, geography, trends and movements. So that's a really great resource if you are looking to relocate overseas. Another way of repositioning yourself might be joining forces with other people. It might be through informal or professional networks. It might be about joining a collective of people with complementary or similar skill sets. It might be about forming a partnership. And another way of repositioning yourself might be in terms of becoming your own boss, so by starting your own business or enterprise As Jason mentioned, this is a growing trend, and with shifts in technology and the way that we can work more flexibly in different locations, there are some really interesting opportunities and tools coming up in this area, and it is a growing area for the entrepreneurial amongst us in taking up opportunities as they arise. Finally, connecting with others is also a really significant factor that can help you generate career options and bring about change. So LinkedIn has a terrific alumni tool where you can actually explore career paths by seeing what people with similar qualifications have gone on to do. The next webinar in this series will be focusing on LinkedIn and other tools to do with your professional brand. So that's something to look forward to. But in the meantime, I would be encouraging you in exploring career options to make use of this tool and see some of the career stories and trajectories of people with similar qualifications.
Okay, thanks for that, Barbara. I think what we'll do now is just talk a little bit about some theory, and really this is about what we've been talking about is being open to opportunities as they come about. So one of the career development theories we look at actually talks a lot about happenstance. So chance or chance situation, especially one that produces a good result. So you'll hear a lot of people when they talk about their careers about the lucky break that they got or being in at the right place or at the right time. And that's part of the story. So being, you obviously need those things to happen to have some breakthroughs sometimes, but you've also got to be able to take advantage of those situations. Things can be presented to you, but if you're not ready to take that risk, if it's doing something that you haven't done before or stepping up to take on more responsibility, you've got to be able to be prepared to be able to do that. So while we do talk about things that are outside your control in terms of those chance events, how you respond to that is important, and some people can miss those opportunities by not responding in the right way. So John Crumboltz talks about planned happenstance. So his theory really looks at career development as a learning process. So you create luck by strategically increasing chances for new opportunities to present themselves. So you can make yourself more lucky by being in the right place at the right time. Is part of that. Part of that is actually being in the place. So, if going out and networking, if you're not going out meeting people, then you're not going to find someone who might need to buy the services that you're offering, or that might have an opportunity for you, or might be able to collaborate with you on a project, or even just learning information from other people or learning new things. So being out there and doing things will increase your chance for new opportunities. Going and reading journals or magazines, or keeping up to date with information, or having a hobby, or things like that. All those types of things can create luck by being involved in diverse activities and connecting things together that perhaps other people haven't been able to put together. The second theory that we're looking at is the chaos theory of careers, which was developed by two Australian academics, Robert Pryor and Jim Bright. And with this theory, they look at careers as being quite complex systems. So traditional career theory is kind of looked at how things develop over time. So we often talk about developmental theories within careers. This is really looking at a more systemic approach. So looking at systems around careers. So not just the internal aspects of your career, but also the external influences. And some of these things can interrelate and affect each other in different ways. So so the ways that can come about might be something like within chaos theory. There's an effect called the pendulum system. So you might have experienced that within your own career, where you might have seen other people where they kind of vacillate from one thing to another. So they might go from working in finance to going in and working in a different area and going back to that, and they can't seem to get out of that trend. They're trying to think of something different to do, but they just keep going backwards and forwards between two different things. There are more kind of closed systems as well, where patterns start emerging. So you might start noticing some trends where, perhaps it might be something like when things get a little bit tough, you disengage from your work, and that results in you needing to look for something else, or perhaps you get to a point where it's all getting too much, and you jump out of that. So you can see patterns kind of emerging over time, and what chaos theory talks about is trying to break open those closed systems and do something a little bit different that will open up more opportunities. So that idea in chaos around the butterfly effect, where one small event can have a larger than expected outcome. So sometimes just by doing something a little bit different to what you've done in your career so far might have a bigger impact on your future career than otherwise you may have expected. So didn't want to go into too much detail about those theories, but if you are interested in those, then certainly you can do a Google on that and read a little bit more about it. But I think it's useful to be able to look at those and to think about your career and how things are going within that, and how some of that might explain things that are happening, or things that you're not doing, to be able to, I guess, increase the opportunity for yourself to take advantage of things that might come your way. Summarising this webinar, a few things we need to look at is accepting that change is a constant, and not being afraid of change, looking to the future as something that's exciting, that has possibilities, and being able to look at ways that you can develop yourself in the future. Apply professional research, communication, initiative, strategic and other skills to identify, try out and pursue specific career options. So while you're doing your postgraduate study, even though you might already have a clear idea where you're heading, it's still a really good idea to take stock of where you're going, and to keep checking in on where I thought I was going before I started this degree. Is that still where I'm going, or have I learnt new things within this in this time while I'm studying that might lead to a different possibility? Be self-aware, so identify and work to your key values, your skills and your strengths. If you go into work that doesn't fit within those, you're not going to be happy within that, and you're not going to perform as well as you could. So keep reflecting on who you are as a person, who you are as a professional, and really make sure that the opportunities that you do look at, that they actually align with your values and your skills and your strengths. Connect and collaborate with like-minded people. Get involved with your professional association or organisations. Doing things like this really can really enhance your career and expand your networks and open up new ideas and knowledge that will help you within your job. Develop your own expertise and draw on the expertise of others. So while you might be at a point in your career where maybe you've been in your career for 10, 15, 20 years, you know a lot, you may be coaching other people that are younger than you, you might have a team that you're working with, still keep learning and bringing in other people that can add to that knowledge as well. and get to work on projects. So these might be paid ones, they might be unpaid ones, might be going out and doing a bit of community work or some pro bono work. Even participating on committees and boards can be really useful, particularly if you're doing an MBA or Master of Management. Those types of qualifications can be really valued by boards, and getting in and doing that can develop your skills in being able to really look at the big picture of an organisation and to be that critical friend to make sure that the organisation is going in the right direction and developing in the way that it needs to do. And as we've talked about with chaos and happenstance theory within your applied to your own career, these equally apply to organisations as well. Some organisations don't look at the possibilities and define themselves in a particular way, and that's all they do, and that they're the ones who end up being disrupted by new players in the market or new technology that they didn't see coming. So be flexible, be open to new opportunities, and position and reposition yourself to align with those new opportunities however you can, by relocating. Perhaps looking at once you finish your study, looking at relocating interstate or overseas to further your career, perhaps joining up with some people you study with or others that you know to start a new enterprise or a startup or something like that. And even look at new ways of working. A lot of people now are doing things like working from home or working in co-working spaces where they get to interact with other people that are doing interesting things. So I'd like to thank you for tuning in today for the webinar, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one in 4 weeks' time. In the meantime, Careers and Employability have got a large number of resources that are available to you. So if you go to our website, which is latrobe.edu.au/students/careers, and from there you can access these resources we've got. So we've got online job boards, we've got some general career information, workshops. We've now got a new system called Big Interview where you can go on and do some online practicing of your interview skills, including recording your responses to interview questions using a webcam, so you can look back at that and see how you've gone or ask for feedback for someone. And we also provide a service for people who are applying for jobs to provide feedback on their resume and job applications. And I'll hand over to Barbara just to do a little plug for her visits into the city campus as well.
Okay, so I have been doing a pop-up careers office at the city campus, one Tuesday a month. So we've been doing those throughout semester 1 and are planning to do some more in semester 2. We'll be posting information on the website and also letting the front desk and the concierges at city campus know what's happening there. But basically, that's an opportunity for you to come into drop-in sessions where you have 20-minute spot to have a chat with a careers and employability advisor about specific career concerns you might have, which could include looking for part-time work. It might be about trying to gain experience in your industry or sector or just get some local experience. It may be looking at your resume, or it may be a question around developing your strengths and sort of particular interests, or joining up with local networks relating to your interest areas. So do keep an eye out for those pop-up advisory services at City Campus, but also make use of Career Hub, which is a great resource, and I am finding that many City Campus students aren't as aware of it as they might be. You can actually post questions through Career Hub, again, which you will get feedback from a careers and employability advisor through that. So do make most of those services as well as our online resources. I look forward to seeing you in the city.
Thanks very much, and we'll see everyone at the next webinar in 4 weeks' time. Thanks very much.